All right, today is just a review of order of operations. So, this is really your prior grade information, but we do want to make sure that we have a good foundational understanding of this before we get into our order of operations with integers. So, this is specifically if we go up to our table of contents here, we are looking at order of operations. So, you can go ahead and plug in your date, whatever that is. And if we look at your learning goals, this is learning goal number 7. I will be able to evaluate order of operations, only involving whole numbers though. So we're talking about those natural numbers. Remember, naturally you learn to count as a baby, 1, 2, 3, but also including 0 in that as well. So anything 0 and above is what we're going to be dealing with today. So that is learning goal number 7. And let's go ahead and scroll down to that lesson, review lesson itself. So here we go. This is a not in book topic today. Anything that says Nearpod, you can just ignore that for now. We're going to do a quick review of this and we'll dig deeper into it with integers later. All right, so a couple of things here. You're used to, with order of operations, this acronym PEMDAS. Or if you break it down, we have please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. There's a reason that the M and D are together and the A and the S are together. And that's because with please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, well, actually let's go down and actually write it. We have the P, which typically we think about as parentheses, even though it does include lots of other punctuation. So however you want to think about that, we're going to go ahead and write punctuation. But I think you can recall too that it's parentheses and other similar types of punctuation. So if we're listing the types of punctuation, we're talking about parentheses. We're talking about brackets that look like this, so go ahead and fill those out. We're also looking at things like braces, and so it goes like this, like a little sideways mountain, that if you go too slow, doesn't really work, and then a little peak, and then another sideways mountain. Mountain, peak, mountain, and down. So you have parentheses, brackets, and braces. You also can look at your vernaculum or division symbol as a type of punctuation, in the sense that if we have something like 2 plus 4 times 3 squared, all of the top part actually does need done first before you then do the division by 3. So it's sort of like these. It creates punctuation in the top. So you can just sort of keep that in mind as you go. All right, so we have please, which is parentheses or punctuation, and then excuse is our exponent. So let's write that in. Okay, and just a review for exponents. Let's go up to here. Remember that exponents, we say 3 to the second power, 2 to the third power. And so, excuse me, just remember that is not 3 times 2. It's actually telling you how many times to multiply the factor 3. So we have 3 times 3 is 9. This is 2 to the third power, which means 2 times 2 times 2. So we have 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, and then 7 to the fourth power means 7 multiplied 4 times. So 7 times 7 times 7 and times 7. And let's just see what that is real quick. If we pull up a calculator here, you could do it on the side, but why not just do it on here real quick? So we have 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 equals 2,401. All right, so we have 2,401, okay, which is a lot different than 7 times 4. All right. After that, we have our multiplication and division, our MD, my dear. So multiplication slash division, okay? And this is whichever comes first, okay? So let's make a little note here. First from left to right. So that's really important to remember when you're doing order of operations. And then our Aunt Sally is our addition and subtraction. Okay, and this is the same thing again, whichever comes first from left to right. Okay, but multiplication division is always going to be before the addition subtraction. Just be aware. All right, so while we're talking about the multiplication, let's also take a look up here. So what are all the different symbols for multiplication? Okay, so we have, let's see, we have 3 times 2 with the little dot. Sometimes you'll see 3 times 2 with the X. Cross that out because we really want to avoid that now that you're getting into algebraic expressions and equations, because as we get into variables, that can get confusing because X is a very commonly used variable. You may see sort of this invisible math of 3 times the quantity of 2 with no multiplication symbol. You might see the 3 in parentheses with the 2 next to it. Or you might see 2 numbers like this. So lots of different symbols for multiplication. Okay. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at these examples here. So we're going to evaluate these expressions. It says, what would be your first step? Underline the first step. This is a good practice for your quiz on order of operations when that comes. So I know my please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So I have please excuse, and then I always do this and box them, my dear Aunt Sally. And that's how I remember it, a little note. So I know I'm going to be doing this here, okay, this multiplication first to solve. And that's technically the only thing it says is what's your first step, underline the first step, okay? Let's look at the next one. We have, I see addition here, and I see subtraction. But more importantly, for my please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, I see my parentheses. And so this operation within the parentheses is what would be first. And I'm going to go ahead and put the P for your punctuation or parentheses. Okay. All right. And then my next one for please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, I don't see any parentheses or punctuation. I do see the exponent right there. So I'm going to put an E for exponent and go ahead and circle that. Okay. Let's go ahead and solve. It says evaluate the expression and circle your answer. So when we look at this, I do know that this entire top section needs taken care of before I do the divide by 5. Okay. And so what we're going to do is look at the top. For please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, I see my parentheses first. So I'm going to take care of the 20 minus 3. I mean, you do need to be rewriting your expressions as you solve things. So 20 minus 3 is 17. So now I have 17 plus 2 cubed, or 2 to the 3rd power. And all that is over 5. Okay. All right. Now, please excuse, my parentheses is taken care of. So now I do my exponents. And so I'm doing 2 to the 3rd. Remember, this is 2 times 2 times 2. Okay. And that equals 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay. And so I'm going to rewrite again. So I have 17 plus 8 all over 5. And now I have my addition on top so that then I can then finally divide. So you have 17, 27, 26, 25. And so now we have 25 over 5. And I can finally solve now, and I get 5. And it does say to circle your answer, so there we go, and we are solved. So there's your review of order of operations.